This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Okay. Okay, fine. So let me share my screen. I think it's visible to everyone, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so guys, today would be officially our first day of the performance testing using JMeter training course. And today our agenda would be to cover the introduction part. Okay, so whatever max we can cover from this, so that we will try to cover it today. And tomorrow we'll go on to the core concepts, and in the subsequent training sessions we will start with the JMeter introduction and the topics which are listed over here. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So guys, let me make this clear that today's and tomorrow's, this would be purely theoretical. We would be discussing purely theoretical concepts of software testing and performance testing. Okay, so of course I'll give you some practical examples with which you can better understand the concepts. But here we will not discuss till first two topics. We will not open up JMeter, and our JMeter session will probably start. I mean, uh, the hands-on on JMeter. Okay, so that will probably start from our third lecture onwards. But in first two lectures, we will try to cover the introduction and the core concepts. And today, as I said earlier, we will begin with the introduction. Okay, I'll make a note of every day's whatever discussion we made. So high level points, I'll make note of this over here in the notepad so that it will be beneficial for all of you. All right. So before moving to what exactly performance testing is, so let me tell you that whatever we are going to discuss here onwards regarding the performance testing, so it is nothing but software performance testing. And so basically that, before understanding performance testing, we need to understand what software means. Okay, so now everybody knows what a software means. We are in the era where we deal with so many technical things. We are surrounded with so many technical devices that we knows, okay, what software is. But still I want to tell you a brief about it so that whenever you explain the same concepts to maybe somebody else who are non-technical from background, so you can bring them on the same platform so that better understanding and communication can be happened between you. So basically what software means. Okay, so it is a generic term used to describe a collection of computer programs or a piece of code, okay, that runs on a particular system in order to perform a specific task. Okay, so that's what software means to us. So any piece of code, any short piece of code, so programming codes or lines, which serves a particular motive, or so that can be called as a software. Okay, what is the example of software? Pretty much simple. This notepad, yes, it's a software. It's a editor. It allows you to what its objective is. It allows you to view and edit the various contents. I think a few more folks have been joined. Welcome, Sarda. Sarda, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. I'm
Hi.
able to hear you.
Okay. So Sarda, we just started with the introduction part. Okay, just a couple of minutes back we
Okay.
started with, so you haven't missed anything much. And as I said earlier, today will be our agenda would be covering the introduction part. Okay, the first topic
Okay.
we are looking to complete in today's session. And before introduction to performance testing, I just wanted to give you some basic idea of what software means. So as I said, by definition, what it means is, let me repeat the same for you. So it's basically a generic term, okay, so which describes collection of computer programs or piece of code that runs on a computer system in order to perform a specific task. Okay, so that's what, in simple terms, what software means. So anything which you see on your computer, so that is nothing but a software. Okay, or in your mobile phones, whatever icons you see which invokes the application which runs a piece of code and serves your objective, so that is nothing but a software for us. Okay. So therefore, what is the meaning of term software? Now, what are the examples? Yes, all your Microsoft products, MS Word, Notepad, and other Microsoft products, this GoToMeeting, all of this. So these are software for us. And not only this, whatever web applications you access, so you go to your Chrome browser. In fact, Chrome browser is also a piece of software only. And from these browsers, whatever applications you access, you go to google.com, you go to any of your websites. Okay, so all of those applications, so those are nothing but softwares. Okay, so it's the basic difference is, instead of running on your computer system, they are running on some another computer system. Okay, so that's the only difference uh, between the set of softwares that you have on your system and basically those which are running on some other system. And by the medium, so medium here would be in case browsers, in our performance testing tools are nothing but piece of software. So from them, from one piece of software, you are accessing another software code or another code, so software program. Okay. Okay, so I hope this brings on the same platform us, and where we refer where we refer the word software, and whenever we refer that word, so same picture will be coming into our mind. Okay, that okay, by whenever I say software and you try to understand it, so we have a clear-cut idea of the same. Okay, and whenever this software is developed, so it has to undergo some development life cycle. Okay, So that is nothing but SDLC. So in performance testing and in general in software testing, you must have encountered across this term that SDLC or STLC. Okay, so SDLC is basically stands for software development lifecycle. And as I said, what does it exactly means is whenever software development begins, okay, it has to undergo some set of processes, some set of defined processes, so that only you can get desired software product at the end. Okay, so there are some stages in this software development life cycle. So when when a software programs goes through all these stages, then only its journey completes, and you will be able to see required product out of it. So what are the stages of software development life cycle? So I'm just listing out them because this from interview point of view, if you are asking me, yes, if the basic concepts are asked, then this is an important question from that point of view. So yes, what is the software development life cycle? What exactly it means? So I have answered it. So first stage is the project planning stage. Okay. So project planning stage, in this stage basically what the software is intended to perform. So that particular things are uh, established or in project planning stage. Okay. So what are uh, the risk associated with the project, its overall journey, the appropriate management, and the technical support required for this project. Okay, so what technologies can be used to build that particular software product. So these things will be discussed in the project planning stage. Then comes the requirement definition. So in requirement definition, basically the requirements are gathered. Okay, so in order to build a software program or a product, so what are the its basic requirements? Okay, the major functions that include critical processes to be managed, or a user class hierarchy. What are the inputs would be required for that product, and what output is intended from it. So those things will be gathered in the requirement definition stage. Then comes the design stage, approach. Okay, so here the designing of the software is done. Okay, so basically the business analyst, the tech leads, the architectures. So they prepare the design of the product. Okay, how the workflow will happen, what technologies can be included, and the timelines. So those will be discussed in the product designing stage. And then we have the development stage, where the actual development of the product starts. So in development stage, basically you will see that multiple teams starts working on the project, on the product. Okay, based on the requirement documented. So the work will be distributed amongst the team and multiple teams, okay, the front end team, back end team, the business logic development team. So those will start working on the product. So okay, so the technical ground level work will start on the development part in the development stage. And then comes the integration stage, integration and test. We can call it as integration and test stage. So in integration and test stage, basically the developed product, okay, so which is tested to see whether it is performing as it was intended to perform, whether it is matching the requirements or not. So that is particularly tested in the integration and testing stage. And finally comes the installation and acceptance. So in test stage only, your application is tested in multiple environments. Okay, so there are multiple environments when we in the software development life cycle. Okay, so an example of that could be uh, pre-prod environment, QA environment, development environment. So whenever software is built, it is built on multiple environments and it is tested on multiple environments so that its integrity and reliability can be tested. And after once the testing has been done, once the functional and non-functional testing has been done, then the product is deployed into production environment, and after the beta testing is done with a small number of users, it is made available for the end users or for public. Okay, so in 6-stage installation and acceptance, it is installed and made available for the end users. Okay. So this was all about the software and the software development lifecycle. Now, as we have seen the brief about every stage, now our intention is more into the integration and test stage. Okay, so what we are looking more into is the testing part of the software development lifecycle. So our focus would be on the testing stage. Yes. So in fact, in testing, now we'll speak about software testing. Okay, so now that we have already seen what software means, so let's define what software testing means. So since some of you guys are already from the testing background, so I would like to take some input from you on this. So anybody can help me out with the definition by whatever understanding you have till now about software testing, how you can define it. Yes. Yes, Lakshman, Pawan, what are your thoughts on software testing? How can, I mean, basically your understanding?
To test the software, how it is working, a main intention we are testing for software.
Right, correct, correct, Lakshman. Yeah. Yeah, so in basic terms, what software test, when we ask what of software testing is that, okay, in general, in simple terms, so it is the testing which is performed, the process of performed on the software in order to see if it works as intended or not. Okay, so how we can define it in a better way is, it is the term that indicates process, that indicates a process or activity or set of activities performed to verify whether software application works or functions as expected or not. So guys, in simple terms, this is what software testing means, and then the other things comes with it. Okay, so such as in functional testing, testers are supposed to measure the functional metrics, report an error, test it again, perform the regression testing, document it, find out bugs, and after the issues are resolved, then provide the green signal. So this would be the aspects which would be coming into the software testing part. Okay, so finding out bottlenecks and any discrepancies related to the software, highlighting them and getting them resolved. So these all would be the part of the process. Okay, all right. So now that we have seen what software testing means in simple terms, so I think now you would be able to explain to anybody that what software testing means to you. Okay, and now the other terminologies and other aspects comes within it whenever the so because the other things are part of this particular process. Okay, on a broader basis, now software testing is divided into two parts. So the first one is functional testing, and the second one is non-functional testing. Okay, so on broader terms, so these are the two major parts, okay, in which the software testing is categorized into. Now there are like based on these are the high level distribution of testing. Okay, then there could be uh, multiple types of testing performed under these two basic categories. Okay, so whatever we test, so that will fall so in the performance testing will fall under non-functional testing, but other types of testing will be a part of either functional testing or a non-functional testing. Okay, so now that we have seen software testing, okay, but yet we haven't started with the performance testing, guys. So I just wanted to make the basic things clear to you, so that in the later point of time, whenever we discuss about the terms, so a clear picture has to be there in your mind whenever we say about software, about or software testing, or software development life cycle. Where are we exactly into it? So for that, I have made these things clear. Okay, so far so good.
Yes, Arish.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Now we'll see about functional testing in a little detail. So functional testing, whenever software is developed, it is regularly tested at the code level for the code level errors and to ensure whether it meets to the functional requirements or not. So that is nothing but the functional testing. Okay, so it is majorly focuses on the application functionality. It's majorly focuses on the particular behavior of of an application. Okay, so let me make a note of this. So what functional testing comprises of? It comprises of testing for code level errors and ensure whether software meets to the requirement. And it majorly focuses on the application functionality. Okay. In functional testing, as I said earlier, the testers will be so they are supposed to measure the functional metrics of an application. So they basically look for the functional metrics of any application. So in this, so error. So it basically in for what is the intention for in functional testing is to find out whether particular functionality of any application whether it is fine or not. So for example, if you take an example of an e-commerce application, so let's take example of the demo application which we will look or which on which we will perform our next activities. So let's consider this example. So whenever I go to this website or this web application, then so whether this page renders correctly or not, so that is was particularly tested in performance testing, where these links are present or not, so these hyperlinks are working or not, the description is properly coming uh, or there are any discrepancies with respect to it when I click on join experience, whether it is taking me to a particular welcome page or not. So that is those are the things which are tested in functional testing. Okay, and whenever we give any input over here, okay, so for that input, are we getting expected output or not? Or when we change the types of input, okay, then how it is accepting those inputs? Okay, whether if in case say we need to log in into a particular application where we need to provide some username and password, and in that case if we provide a wrong credentials, then what exactly happens? Does the software gives us the error, or even after providing right credentials also it is not able to authenticate us? So that is those are the particular things which comes under the functional testing. So those are the things which we look for into uh, functional testing. Okay, the application behavior. And there I can tell you some other examples like uh, when you go to any e-commerce based application, say Amazon, and you look for a particular product and you select the product, so whether it is giving the correct information about the product or not, whether uh, if the product are available, you are placing the order, then whether the order is getting placed or not. So those are the aspects which are particularly related to a specific functionality of an application. So those are tested in functional testing. Okay, and any errors found, or if it is not matching to a particular uh, requirement, then those errors are reported to the development team using various tools. So Jira is one of it. Okay, so in which basically functional testers raises a ticket, and it is assigned to a development team, and they are supposed to fix it. And then again it comes to the testing team, okay, saying development team saying that they have fixed this issue, and again the testing teams needs to perform retesting on it to ensure, okay, the fixes which are performed or given by the development team are working fine. And in fact, the one more thing comes over here is during functional testing is the regression testing. Okay, so there is a difference between retesting and regression testing. So sometimes it might happen that okay, so they have fixed one particular thing, they have fixed code of one particular thing, but that might have impacted the other functionality of application. Okay, so this is not what we are looking for. Okay, so in that case, regression testing is done in order to ensure the other functionalities are uh, uh, they are also working fine. They are not getting badly impacted or affected due to the fixes. Okay, and
Yep.
yeah, so functional testing, as we saw some of its examples and the processes involved in it. Now, functional testing, it can be done in two ways. Okay, as you guys know, so it can be done in manual way or it can be done in automated way. So I'll list down over here the two types: the manual and automation approach. Okay, so one thing might come into your mind that if we already have the manual approach, then why automation? Or if we can automate, then why to go for manual? Okay, so so both of these approaches have their own advantages. Okay, so because everything cannot be automated. Okay, there are certain things that needs to be performed manually. The functional flow understanding has to be done manually only. Uh, so in that cases, manual testing is preferred. Okay, but there are some day-to-day activities which are time consuming, resource consuming. So those can be automated using various automation tools. Okay, so automation tools used in functional testing are Selenium, UFT. Okay, then for API testing, we have something called as Postman, SOAP UI. Various frameworks used could be testing framework. So these are the terminologies. If you ever heard of it, or if you in the future if you hear about it, then it will be something which is related or which is more leaning towards functional testing part. Okay, test and G or J unit. Nowadays, Selenium is used most widely. It is replacing the existing other, since it is open source freeware, and it can be implemented using multiple programming languages. Okay, so Selenium is booming in right now. Okay, guys. So I think this explains what functional testing means and its approaches in it. So please remember that everything cannot be automated. And even in functional testing, every aspect cannot be automated. So only to overcome the challenges faced in manual testing, we go for automation testing. Okay, but it cannot completely replace manual testing. Okay, there are various technologies that supports code-based as well as codeless automation as well. Now we'll see what are various types of functional testing is. Unit testing. So these are some high level distinguishes. So types of functional testing: unit testing, integration testing, then acceptance testing. So these are the various types of functional testing. What happens in unit testing? I'll just brief it in a couple of lines. Is whenever a functionality is built, it is built in multiple parts. So in unit testing, it's individual piece of code and are tested. Okay, whereas in integration testing, when the multiple things are clubbed together. Okay, when you see an application, it basically has it is a basically integration of multiple functions. Okay, multiple uh, services. Okay, so those are tested in integration testing. Okay, in acceptance testing, basically it is performed from end user acceptance perspective. What end user is looking for, from that perspective, acceptance testing is done. Okay, so now that we have clearly understood the basic concepts, the fundamentals, now we'll see more about non-functional testing. So in our agenda, non-functional testing is it's something which performance testing is part of, and we'll see now in more details about it.
Harisha, sorry to interrupt. Like, can we go through like STLC, like software testing life
Software?
testing STLC? We have completed SDLC, right? So
Right,
why to
right.
test? Yeah, before going to that, we can we go to that? No, we
Yes,
come.
yes. Yeah. So I would be coming to it. Before performance testing lifecycle, I would be discussing about software testing lifecycle as well. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll complete about the non-functional testing part, and then we'll look into the software testing lifecycle as well. Yeah. Okay, so as you saw, for functional testing was more related to the application functionality and application, a particular application behavior or functional behavior. Now, non-functional testing is performed in order to check the non-functional aspects of, uh, of of an overall application. Okay, so what are these non-functional aspects? So let me write over. It is non-functional aspects of an application. Okay, so what are these non-functional, when we say some non-functional aspects, so what are these? So responsiveness, stability, scalability. So these are some of the non-functional aspects. Responsiveness, scalability, and stability. So these are some of the non-functional aspects which we test in non-functional testing. So what is the meaning of responsiveness? So responsiveness means, as we'll again consider the same example. Okay, whenever you opened a particular application, so okay, so how much time it is taking in order to render completely, or in order to interactive with the end user, okay, in order to load. So that is nothing but the responsiveness of this particular software application. Okay, how quickly it responds to the user inputs. Okay, so that is nothing but responsiveness. Then comes the scalability. Okay, now here only me who is accessing this particular application. When there are multiple like me, when there are multiple users who would be accessing this particular application, then how it is behavior is. So that is nothing but the scalability. When it is tested with say 100 users or 1000 users, then how it behaves, whether it behaves as it was intended to behave, or there are any sort of bottlenecks or any sort of uh, errors which we came across. So that is particularly tested in the scalability, whether the application is uh, able to scale or able to uh, sustain for under a particular user load or not. So that is nothing but scalability. Then comes the stability. Okay, so by stability we mean whether the application under a specific load. When I say load, when it is when there are multiple users accessing the various applications or similar applications of the functionalities, then whether it is stable or not, or it is started giving you some internal server error, or it is started giving you some request timeout errors. So that is nothing but a stability of the application. So these things are particularly tested in non-functional testing.
So what's the difference between both two, Harish, scalability and stability? Because the inner line is same, right?
Okay, the scalability means whether the software is able to whether when the load on the software increases, okay, so whether it handles that particular load or not. So how much concurrent users, when I say concurrent users means so that is the one terminology which will cover in the core concepts. So when as you can understand in a way like this, when more number of users try to access, so how many number of users that it supports. Okay, so that is nothing but the scalability. And the stability would be okay, when we are accessing with these many number of users, say 100 number of users, so whether the all applications, overall application is stable or not, or at the server it is maybe at the server side, whether it is shooting or what, maybe its CPU is going high or what, or if you see any uh, hikes in the memory. So that is nothing but the stability of software. So how stable it is.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Okay. So this was the difference between scalability and stability. And then there are multiple aspects which comes under it. So, but in our performance testing, so these would be our intention or for the testing. Okay, now in non-functional testing, security testing also comes then, or the security level metrics are tested. So now we'll see, yeah. So I hope you guys get the difference between functional and non-functional testing. Okay.
Yep.
In functional testing, we basically see whether something is working as intended or not. But in non-functional testing, it is more something which is related to time and accuracy as well. Okay, so whenever we say if something is working as expected, but whether it is expecting in stipulated time or not, so that would be some additional part which will be coming under the non-functional testing. So in short, efficiency of an application is tested under non-functional testing. So now that we have seen these, now the definition and of non-functional testing, we'll see the types of various non-functional testing. So likewise, in functional testing, we had unit integration, acceptance testing. So here we have performance testing. Now, under performance testing, we have multiple types of tests. So basically, load test. So these are most popular types of testing, which falls under the roof of under the name of performance testing. Load testing, soak testing, okay, stress testing. So we would be looking in these terminologies in a short while. Then bandwidth testing, etc., are part of performance testing. Then we also have failover testing, and we also have security testing. So all of these will fall under the non-functional testing only. Okay, so so far any doubts or anything, guys? Apart from SDLC, I haven't covered SDLC part, so I'll touch base with the SDLC in very soon. So far, whatever we covered, any doubts or anything on that part?
Like, what is the failover testing, Harish?
Yeah, in failover testing, basically we test if a particular server, okay, is made down. Okay, so nowadays applications are hosted on multiple servers. Okay, so when particular server is made down, then what is the impact on the application? So that is particularly tested in failover testing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, guys, which is not clear to you, or you want me to explain in some more details of it? So far we covered what software means to us. Okay, what is the software development life cycle? Then various stages in the software development life cycle. Where are we into it? So as we saw, we are into integration and testing stage, and that too in what we are covering in this training course is about the testing, software testing of an application, where we saw the definition of what software testing means, with various types, in which basically we would be talking in more details about non-functional testing, its types, and that too the major focus would be on performance testing. Okay, the various types of performance testing that we would be looking into. Okay, so I think so far it is clear. So we'll take a short break of 5 minutes from here, and we'll be back soon. Fine?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Hello guys. So all of you are back.
Yes.
Okay, Varun, thanks. Okay, others, are we good to start?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Lakshman. All right. So thanks, guys. I think all of you are settled down. So from here, we'll cover for next half an hour, and then we'll conclude our today's session. So now that we have seen the various types of functional test, non-functional testing, now we'll start talking more about the performance testing. Okay. Yeah. So what performance testing basically means is testing done in order to determine the speed of an action or an activity on a single instance. Okay, so usually performance testing and load testing, uh, so these terminologies are used as a I mean, they are considered to be same, okay, but they are related to each other, but not exactly the same. When we talk about performance testing, so of course it determines the speed or the responsiveness of an application, but so that is more related to a single instance. Okay, so when we consider our earlier example, when I speak about this particular demo Borland application. Okay, when I click on join experience, okay, then how quickly this particular page renders. Okay, so what is the load time uh, to render this page? What is the time when how much time it takes to uh, make itself interactable with us. So that is nothing but the performance testing. Okay, so that is nothing but we test in the performance testing. Okay, so here I'll say, oh, the performance, what performance testing means, it is done to in order to it is done in order to determine how fast or how quick some aspect of a system performs. So what are these aspects? So responsiveness is the one of the aspect. Okay. So when we talk about performance testing, so in case of any application, so how quickly it responds to the user inputs. So that is nothing but the performance testing. Okay, and so it can also serve to validate or verify other attributes of the system, such as scalability, reliability, and the resource usage. Okay, so as we have seen the scalability earlier, so what scalability means, the ability of the system to handle growing amount of users or growing amount of concurrent requests. Okay, the reliability means the ability of a system to perform and maintain its functions in a routine circumstances, as well as in the unexpected situations. Okay, so that is nothing but a part of performance testing. And by resource usage, I mean, okay, so what we have discussed so far is scalability, stability, and resource usage. Okay, by resource usage, I mean the at server side, or we have various servers like application server, database server, web servers. Okay, so these servers are hosted on these servers, and these servers are nothing but the computer systems. Okay, so the CPU utilization, memory utilization are the resources for these servers. So what is the resource utilization at these servers? So that is particularly tested in performance testing, and that too in server side performance testing, which for which these performance testing tools are used for. Okay, and there is another aspect which is client side performance testing, in which we'll talk about in which we'll see about on the client side of what client to me is nothing but in here in this case this browser. Okay, so how much time it takes once it gets the response from the server, so how much time it is required to uh, to load the page, to perform various activities. So that is nothing but the client. So that is tested in client side testing, and the other things which you discussed. So those would be related to server side performance testing. Okay, and we will be looking in depth of server side performance testing. So all these load testing, soak testing, stress testing, or bandwidth testing. So these will be part of server-side performance testing only. So in performance testing, the general intention for performance testing we have seen is to determine the response time of application. Now, what response time, by response time, what exactly we mean is, so that we'll see in the core concepts. Okay, so what by response time, what we mean exactly. Okay, so for now, just remember it that the what performance testing is done or why it is done is to test, or in order to determine the response time of application. Second is how many users the system will support. Okay, the number of transactions or number of concurrent requests an application supports. Hardware behavior, or resource, or we can also call it as a resource utilization. So these are the four basic things for which we perform software performance testing or software performance server-side testing. Okay. Now, now that we have seen, okay, what performance testing means is, so in performance testing, say this load test, soak test, so all of these would be the part of performance testing. Okay, so now we'll see why performance testing is, so that we have covered introduction to performance testing. We'll see the need for performance testing. Okay, so why it is required, need for performance testing. Okay, so not because we need a job in market in performance testing. Okay, for us it is so, but in general, why performance testing is required is in order to, you have came across multiple such examples, okay, where you have seen in peak hours, okay, you might have experienced some delay in the uh, responsiveness of application. Okay, it starts behaving slowly. So these are the some of the points where we see the need of performance testing. Okay, so some softwares are not performance tested and directly deployed into production environment. Then when a large user starts accessing that particular application, it crashes. Okay, and what it impacts in the brand name of that particular uh, software organization and the product. So it also impacts the end user experience. It because if you see uh, any delay in the responsiveness of a software, you won't stick to that particular application. You will in today's market, you have multiple options for you. Okay, so if it is not performing well, so what you will do, you will switch to another application. So that will cause a huge impact on the business, which will a financial loss as well as uh, the loss in the brand name as well. Okay, so those are the key aspects for which performance testing is done. Okay, so and it is from various surveys, it is proved that okay, so in earlier times performance testing, decade ago, performance testing was not considered as an essential part of the software testing life cycle. But later on, as the impacts were seen, and from various surveys it was made clear that even some seconds of delay in your page rendering time or uh, page load time will cause your uh, your user base from your it will shift your user base from your application to some other application, and they will never come back to your application. So it will create a business loss in your for your company. So that's why performance testing is an important aspect. Okay, so because for any organization, reputation is most important, customer satisfaction is most important, and ignoring performance testing can cause various losses. So that's why performance testing is an important uh, type of testing that is required for any software. Okay, so whether it is accessed by uh, even few number of users, or whether it is for your internal users of any particular company, or it is uh, for end users, which is made for the public. So for all types of softwares, so performance testing is essential. Okay, so now that we have seen the need for performance testing, now I'll talk about we'll list down the performance testing concepts. Okay, so here you will come across some terminologies as virtual user or test plan or NFR. Okay, then response time, as I said earlier. So these are the basic things which will come across, and the other things also will that we will cover or will discuss in more detail at later point of time. And now we have already seen the difference between functional and performance testing. Okay, in detail we have spoke about the differences between the functional testing and performance testing, how it is different, how functional testing was related to the specific functionality of an application. It is more intended to test uh, whether a particular functionality or an application is behaving as it was intended to behave or not. And whereas in performance testing we look for like how quickly how quickly overall application responds. So we have seen the difference between functional and performance testing. So now we'll see about the performance testing life cycle, and before that we'll see how it is different than software testing life cycle. Okay, so what are the stages in software testing life cycle? Okay, so as we have the software development life cycle, okay, so wherein in order to develop a software it has to undergo some specific stages. So similarly, in order to test any application, so there are some stages documented. Okay, so it whether you follow waterfall model or an agile model, the software testing life cycle, it will remain the same, but it's just that its implementation would differ in both of these. Okay, so each activity will be planned and will be carried out in a systematic way in software testing life cycle. Okay, so the different stages in software testing lifecycle would be, first would be requirement gathering stage. Then we have test planning stage. The first one is what? Requirement gathering. The second one we have is the test planning. Then we have something called a test case development. Then comes the environment setup. Then we have called test execution. And finally comes the test cycle closure. Okay, or you can call it as a closure activity. So basically, in requirement, will give you some brief about these various stages. Okay, so what happens in requirement gathering stage is the requirements are captured. The QA are intended to so they are they understands the requirement by discussing with various teams, with the tech leads, with the development teams, business analysts. So from them they gather the various requirements. Okay, what functionalities to be tested, what and they document it. Okay, so either so this could be either functional or non-functional aspects. So QAs basically gathers the requirements by interacting with multiple teams or multiple stakeholders. So entry criteria, exit criteria, activities, and deliverables. So those will be part of the requirement gathering and analysis stage. Then comes the test planning. Okay, so in test planning, what is done is the various metrics are identified during a test planning stage. So this is the again the first step in the testing process, and so in which various metrics are identified. Okay, so how your uh, testing will be performed, test strategy for your testing activity. So those will be listed in the test planning, and a detailed test plan will be shared across the teams for the approvals. Okay, so risk analysis and any risk management or mitigation, so those will be covered in the test planning stage. Then we have the analysis phase. In SDLC, so in analysis phase or the test planning phase, so we basically identify what to be tested in the testing process. So what to be tested, so that is covered in this test planning case itself. Then we have test case development. So in test case development, okay, in case of functional and non-functional testing, so this would be quite similar in both cases. What happens is we look for the QAs which are working on the projects or on the application. So they will build the test cases. So they will in case of non-functional testing, they will build the scripts. Okay, so that would be a non-case. This would be a test case development. Then comes the environment setup. So what happens in environment setup is the environment required for testing is set. Okay, so sometimes the code development is done on the development environment, but testing is generally done on the pre-prod environment or other environments. So for that we need environment setup. So that is particularly done in the environment setup stage. And then we have the test execution, in which multiple tests are performed. Okay, in case of automation and both non-functional performance testing. So whatever test cases were developed earlier, so those will be performed, and the results will be captured. Okay, so those will be analyzed. If any errors or any bugs are identified, so those will be reported in the test execution stage. And after that, so once after reporting those errors, So developers take actions on it and they fix it. And again, this is an iterative process which continues, okay, between test case development and test execution. Because because every time a QA or a tester come across or problematic situation, they will raise it, and again developers will try to fix it. Okay, and once they fix it, testers are intended to perform the retesting and the regression testing. And after the test execution, the results are analyzed, and then comes the final test uh, closure activity, where based on the executions and fixes, okay, so based on the comparison with the actual requirements, the closure report is prepared. Okay, so in which the QA lead or the from QA side, they will give the green signal to move ahead. So they will mention the so whatever testing they have done, so whether it is meeting to a particular requirements or not. So based on that, closure report will be prepared, and it will be shared across the various stakeholders and the other team members. Okay, now that we have seen software test life cycle, so now, guys, we have already discussed for 1.5 hours, and so today we'll stop here, and tomorrow we will begin with the performance testing life cycle. Okay, so we will. So now that you have already understood the software testing life cycle, so performance testing life cycle will be, so more or less similar to the software testing life cycle itself. So we'll discuss in more about it in tomorrow's session, and we'll also cover we'll also cover the various types of performance uh, performance testing tools used for performance testing, and these terms, this load testing, stress testing, spike testing, endurance testing, how these are different, and what is their exact meaning. So that we'll see in the tomorrow's session. All right. So far we have discussed. I'm just reiterating once. So today we have discussed what software means. Uh, what is the Sdlc, software development lifecycle? It's a software testing. What are the types of software testing? We saw about functional and non-functional testing. We discussed about in uh, various points in functional testing. Okay, the tools used for functional testing, the approaches used for functional testing. When we went to non-functional testing, okay, in non-functional testing, we saw we will majorly focused on performance testing itself. We saw its definition and various types, intentions to perform performance testing, and what can be achieved from the performance testing, why it is required. Okay, so that we covered in the need for performance testing. So we are left with, so we have just listed some performance testing concepts. So these we'll see in detail later. Okay, and we have also covered the software testing life cycle. Okay, so and as I said, tomorrow we'll cover the rest of the part from the first topic. Yeah. So from today's session, any doubts or anything?
This is
Harish,
Pawan
can you?
here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate on the UAT, uniform acceptance testing?
Yeah. So UAT is one of the like uniform. UAT is one of the environment. In the environment setup, you will find UAT environment on which the testing is done. Okay, what we can say. It is not like production environment. It is not that much scalable environment. Okay, but for functional testing is mainly done on the UAT environment. But for performance testing, it is if you perform the non-functional testing and performance testing on UAT environment, then then you won't get the reliable results. Okay, you cannot compare those results with the actual environment, because generally UAT environment is 1/4 or it is 1/4 of the production environment. It is not same as the production environment. But what in performance testing, what we ask for is what we ask for is the environment which is similar to production environment.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So Harish, can you tell me like need for performance testing once repeat?
Yeah. Need for performance. So yeah, performance testing is required in order to test the various aspects, the stability and scalability of the application. So as you have seen that if the application is not performance tested, then there are situations where without performance testing, if it is deployed into the product.
Harish, you're breaking. I can't hear your voice.
Performance testing, because at the end, customer satisfaction is the most important for any product, for any company. Okay, so if your site is performing slow, then uh, as a user, okay, you won't access that particular site again. Okay, consider an example of an e-commerce application. Okay, if you are basically this is observed. So I hope you might have experienced this. Basically, in case of some product sale, okay, on that particular date. So when a large number of users at the same time tries to purchase a product, so you might have seen that the application goes down. Okay, and again, if it is not tested properly, then the downtime is you cannot like estimate the downtime. Okay, so it will take so how much time is required again to build up make the servers up and the functionality. So this is huge. So this will create a huge loss on the business, and it will also degrade the reputation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why performance testing is important. So this is the high level. Okay, these are some what we can say high level needs for which performance testing is done. Then if you go in depth of it, then there are like some other once we start testing performance testing. So the various other bottlenecks related to the application. So of course that will come up, and once fixing it will improve your overall performance application, and which will increase the user satisfaction level as well.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, guys. So I think we are good to stop for today. So tomorrow we'll.
Yeah, Harish, Pawan here. I have one more question. Like
Yes, Pawan.
yesterday, you said the
Mhm.
JMeter is updated, and what are the features of the new version? What is are the
Mhm.
updated things in the new version?
Well, by UI at UI level, there are a lot of changes. Some non-functional changes are also there, but a lot of changes you would experience from UI level. Okay, some of the new functionalities has been added into it. Some of the new elements has been added into it. Okay. So those will I'll show you once we'll start with the JMeter introduction. So in that part itself, I will show you the UI level changes done in the JMeter. And of course, in order some previous fixes, some previous bugs raised. So fixes for that are done this particular release. So that part we'll discuss in more details in the introduction of JMeter part.
Okay. Yeah. Like any updates on the SAP and Citrix support, like those we have in LoadRunner. These GUI-based applications we do not have in JMeter. So any integration
Yeah,
of
yeah. So we don't have there are I think there are certain other plugins available which extends the existing capabilities of JMeter. So with that, I think it might be possible. One thing which I know is you can integrate Selenium test cases with JMeter. So with that, again, it leverages its use.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So in
for
more
monitoring
details,
part,
we'll see in the introduction section itself.
sure, yeah. And regarding the monitoring part, I think we need to still depend on BlazeMeter on the right, like the integration of Dynatrace and all.
Yeah, so
Uh,
BlazeMeter will give you an ease of integration with the other APM tools. Okay, whether it is New Relic or Web Dynamics or Dynatrace
mhm.
for monitoring purpose. But if you can, I mean, JMeter you can integrate with other tools as well. I mean, for Grafana, if you are good with the integration, then you can easily integrate with Grafana or Elasticsearch and InfluxDB in order to get the results at runtime, to monitor the results at runtime, to get the graphical representation as you see in case of the other performance testing tools.